Hi there, Alex here at mixinglessons.com. In this video, we're going to have a look at the Galaxy Tape Echo plugin by Universal Audio. This plugin is an emulation of the RE-201 Space Echo by Roland, which was a combination of a tape delay and a spring reverb unit. When I say tape delay, in the original units, there's a piece of tape inside which is on a continuous loop, so the end of the tape and the beginning of the tape are joined together. And then as that moves around, it passes over one or more playheads, and it will play what's been recorded onto the tape. So it gives you this delay or this repeat as it goes round. And so in this video, we'll go through each of the parameters on the plugin, and we'll have a listen to how it sounds, and we'll have a look at this plugin. And so if this is something that you're considering adding to your collection of plugins, or if this is a plugin that you already own and you want to see what the different parameters do and you can have a look at different ways of how to use it, then hopefully you will find this video interesting. So we'll start with some of the basics first. So this is the input control. So this controls the level of the signal going into the plugin. Now, because this emulates the original hardware, you can achieve some clipping and some distortion at the input stage. So you can drive the signal more loudly into the plugin, and it will give you some color and some character and some distortion. Now, the 12 o'clock position is unity gain. So when you hear the phrase unity gain, what that means is that the signal is neither being turned up nor being turned down. And then if you go clockwise, that'll increase the level going in, or anti-clockwise or counterclockwise will reduce the level of the signal going into the plugin. And then this peak level indicator will light up when the signal is being detected at around -2 or -1.5 decibels. And that will get brighter the louder you push the signal in. And so you can use that to kind of gauge how much you're pushing things into clipping. And so if you wanted to use some of that distortion, you can increase the level here, and then you could obviously counteract that by decreasing the level at the output stage, and that is controlling the level that the signal is coming out of the plugin. So if you wanted a cleaner signal, then you would obviously turn the output up and the input down, or vice versa. If you wanted some of that distortion, you would turn the input up and then turn the output down to compensate. Now, this VU meter here is showing you the average level of the signal that's going to the delay portion of the plugin, or that's going to the tape, essentially. And so you can use that in conjunction with the peak level meter and also your ears to get a gauge of how loud you're sending the signal into the plugin. Okay, next you have the head select option. So as I said, there are different playheads within here, which will give you different combinations of delays or echoes, and you can also then combine that with the reverb section of the plugin. So options 1 to 4 are just delay. And you can see there that you have different options appearing down here regarding the playheads. And the numbers on these different playhead readouts down here is showing you the delay time in milliseconds. And then as you move around, you have more combinations of the playheads for different delays, and those are combined with the reverb. And then you finally have an option for reverb only if you don't want to use the delay portion of the plugin. Okay, so we'll have a listen to some of the different combinations of playheads, and we'll use the echo rate parameter to adjust the delay time. So again, in the original units, this would be used to speed the tape up or down, which would give you a different delay time. And so you can see here the millisecond values on the 2 playheads that are active with this selection. And then as we go clockwise, it will decrease the length of the delay because it's speeding up the tape. And actually, as the tape speeds up and speeds down, you'll hear that in real time on the plugin as well. So let's have a quick listen. Now, at the minute, we're just listening to the delay because the volume of the reverb is turned down. So actually, you could use any of these 11 options just as delays, just using the playheads, and you can control how fast or slow the delay is using the echo rate parameter. But let's now turn up the level of the reverb, and let's listen to some of these options with the spring reverb in as well. And just so you're aware, playhead 1 can give you millisecond values of anywhere between 69 milliseconds and 177 milliseconds. Playhead 2 can go anywhere from 131 to 337, and playhead 3 can go from 189 to 489, so you can get different delay times at different playheads. Okay, now something we can do is we can use the feedback parameter to give us more delays or more echoes. So essentially what this is doing is it's controlling how much of the signal is fed back into the input to increase the number of repeats that we're getting. Now this is really useful because with this we can go from having this sort of delay that we've had so far to having maybe some natural sounding repeats which will maybe fade away, or we can go to the other extreme and we can create some very immersive results. And this is where you can start to use this plugin almost as an instrument of its own. You can actually drive this into what's called self-oscillation, where its own repeats start to generate a signal. And so it builds up and it creates a loop that keeps going and doesn't die away. So let's have a play around with that, and let's move it over to the rhythm guitar to do this. First of all, we'll have a listen just on its own, and then we'll put it in the context of the mix. So that creates something which repeats, but then it fades away. Now, as I say, let's put this in the context of the mix and let's play around with doing something a little bit more immersive. And so you can see there we can go into what's called self-oscillation, and it creates quite a creative effect. And it's something that you can play around with. Obviously that would sound entirely different with different combinations of playheads, different echo rates. You know, there's a lot that you can do with this plugin. It can be used very, very creatively, and it's a lot more than just a simple delay, really. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other parameters on the plugin. So the treble parameter controls the high frequency response of the delay or the echoes, the repeats. It doesn't affect the high frequency response of the reverb or of the dry signal that you're sending into the plugin. And that is also the case with the bass parameter. And once again, at 12 o'clock, these are at unity gain, and then you can decrease or increase the level. The echo pan parameter will pan where the echo is in the stereo field. This won't work on a mono channel, but if you have this set up on a stereo channel, whether the signal that you're using to feed the plugin is mono or stereo, you will be able to pan the echo to the left or the right. And then the echo volume parameter obviously controls the level of the echo coming out of the plugin. And if you turn it all the way anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, it will disable the echo, and then you would only be getting the reverb. And then similarly, again, assuming that you're on a stereo channel, you can pan the reverb, and also you can control the level of the reverb using the reverb volume parameter. Obviously this won't have any effect on options 1, 2, 3 and 4 on the head select because those don't have any reverb anyway. The input send parameter, here you have echo or mute as your two options for this switch. If you switch this over to mute, that mutes the signal going to the echo portion of the plugin. So that can be useful if, let's say, you want to only use the delay for certain moments in the track, but you want to use the reverb throughout. What you could do is you could have this parameter automated to switch on and off. So the reverb could be running all the time, and then you could have this switch on to send the signal to the delay or to the echo, and then switch back off again when you didn't want that. So let's have a quick listen to that. So we'll start just with the reverb, and then we'll add the echo in, and then we'll take it away again. So that can be really useful where you want to use the spring reverb all the way through on a particular channel, but you only want the delay at certain times or at certain parts of the song. The tempo sync is a useful parameter What happens is if you turn this on, it will sync the tempo of the plugin to the tempo of the DAW, or to the session. So in this instance, we have a BPM of 120 in our session. So if we turn this on, it will sync the delay times to the BPM of the session, and then you'll see here that these values have changed from milliseconds to note values or beat values. Now, if you see them flashing like this, what that means is that that's actually out of the capability of the original hardware unit. So essentially that was something that the original hardware unit would have been unable to do. But you can alter your echo rate to find values that the plugin is capable of. Here in this tape loop section, first of all, let's look at this. You've got the option of new, used, or old tape. So this will emulate the sound of whether the tape in this unit was new or used or old. The older that tape gets, the more it will get a bit more lo-fi sounding perhaps. You'll also hear what's known as wow and flutter. That essentially refers to that wobbling that you can hear in the pitch. And so wow is low frequency variation in pitch and flutter is high frequency variation in pitch. So we'll have a quick listen to the different tape types. So the newer the tape is, it's maybe a bit brighter and a bit clearer. Now the splice option, if you imagine a piece of tape going around inside this original hardware unit, obviously the end of the tape and the beginning of the tape have got to be joined together at some point. Splice basically resets at what point that join is in your tape loop. And when that passes over a playhead, that will give you a slight drop. That can be quite useful if you've got the plugin in self-oscillation and it's doing one of these feedback loops. Then you could have that point going round and that could sound quite good. You could use that quite creatively. So let's see if we can set that up. We'll turn tempo sync off. We'll have the tape going around very quickly. And actually, we won't play anything in the session. We'll just use the self-oscillation by using a high feedback. We'll use older tape as well, because it's a bit more noticeable. So you heard it there, and then we'll wait for it to pass round again. So that simply moves where that point occurs, it resets where that point occurs. Okay, and then the power button simply bypasses the plugin, which can be useful if you're in a bit of a loop in one of these feedback loops and you just need to cut everything and reset, then you can bypass the plugin and that will switch the plugin off. So hopefully that gives you an overview of this plugin. If you're somebody who is recording and mixing their own music and you want to get a bit of a head start, or you want to take some of the guesswork out of some of the important things that we do in mixing, like EQ and compression and recording vocals in a home studio, then I've got 3 free guides that I'd invite you to download. You can get all 3 of them completely free when you go to mixinglessons.com/free-downloads. I'll also leave a link on screen, which is a video similar to this, where I look at the 1176 collection of plugins by Universal Audio. So the 1176 is a great compressor. It's something that I use in most mixes. And in that video, I walk you through the 3 different versions of the 1176 that you get in that bundle. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.